Je chembur surda nyingmi jang zoner molum chembur ngab gyabda bagar dar ngam zan to shirmar dor tomba tirje jan lagi shomza. Nije rawar zengi jang gansa jawar tirje shen lo ye larman jime banzo jalak sorand gorgi toban power shinji lo.
Profound and subtle dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we can hear and follow it, may we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate all beings from samsara, please generate Supreme Bodhicitta before today's teaching. Let us continue our further study of the Nagarjuna Bodhisattva's the 100 verses on wisdom. Today we have indeed completed the 100 verses on wisdom. Although it's just a total of 100 verses, it's not very long. We have successfully completed it over the course of these 10 comprehensive lessons this time, so it's finally finished, and I truly think we're all quite happy and pleased about it. In the past, perhaps even a full 100 lessons didn't really seem like a particularly big deal. But now I feel more and more strongly that even completing just 10 lessons gives me a profound sense of personal accomplishment. In the uncertain future, who truly knows what may transpire? Perhaps I might only be able to give one single lesson a year. This could be due to the changing climate in various significant respects, or simply my own advancing age. Things indeed aren't quite truly the same as they used to be in many ways. That is absolutely for sure. This time we have successfully finished teaching the profound and insightful the 100 verses on wisdom. And for tomorrow I'm planning to teach the practice of shamatha. A couple of days ago I translated it. I think I did, right? If I didn't, you can check it yourselves when the time comes. Take a look at the electronic file or listen to it in some way. Maybe it will take 2 lessons or maybe just 1. Right now, currently, one is the practice of shamatha, and the other is the single-syllable sutra of the sacred syllable A. I plan to study these important teachings over the next couple of days. Today, let's begin our discussion from the 90th verse. For those individuals who are truly without innate wisdom, what will use the treatises? For someone blind in both eyes, what use is a bright mirror? This means that no matter what kind of person you are, if you yourself truly lack the profound wisdom to discern, then no matter how many sacred scriptures, extensive treatises, or intricate tantras there are outside, or even the comprehensive treatises of other great masters and eminent monks, or the various worldly classics, no matter how excellent or profound they are, what use are they? Generally, if you lack wisdom yourself, you cannot unlock the profound meaning within them. It's just like a blind person who cannot see with both eyes. No matter how good a bright mirror you have, you still can't use it. No matter how you try to look at your own face, you still can't see it, so what's the use? So here it is quite clearly and explicitly explained that in each and every single verse of the 100 verses on wisdom, the importance of wisdom and the faults of lacking wisdom are discussed, as well as how to give rise to genuine wisdom within one's own mind stream. The main point is to expound on these principles. In this way, just as we truly, truly need wisdom, if we lack wisdom, then even though these treatises, for example, when we study emptiness, the treatises of Madhyamaka and Prajnaparamita are so excellent, but if you yourself lack wisdom, they are just books to you, nothing more. If you study the Abhidharmakosha, the teachings of the Abhidharmakosha are especially profound, but without wisdom you still can't truly access them. It's the same with Vajrayana. Every instruction, every treatise contains excellent principles, including when we rely on a spiritual teacher. Perhaps every teacher has their own key instructions and essential points, which are also very good. But for someone without wisdom, it's as if none of these things have ever been encountered. So for such a person, it has nothing to do with them and is of no use. I think it was mentioned in some proverb before, if a person lacks supreme wisdom, who will study the treatises, no matter how wonderful they are? If a person does not possess exceptional wisdom, even though these treatises are extremely excellent, who will actually study them? Who will really be willing to research them? Who will be willing to delve deeply into their study and practice? No one will. It's just like in our worldly life. It's like putting green grass in front of a hungry dog, or meticulously inlaying something with the finest, purest gold, or carefully embedding it with all kinds of exquisite and precious jewels, yet the yak has absolutely no interest in it whatsoever, showing complete indifference. So, in this world, wisdom is indeed truly very important. Even if one only even just has worldly wisdom, one will still understand the principles of the world. If someone possesses some transcendent wisdom, then they will also understand things in that regard. Even if your wisdom is not that sharp, nor that profound, as long as you have basic wisdom accompanied by faith, you may still be able to learn some preliminary practices and study some methods of spiritual cultivation as well. Depending on your own unique situation, as long as you possess genuine wisdom, there shouldn't be any significant problem with making the absolutely right choices. But if your wisdom has already been tainted within your mind stream, then even if you appear outwardly clever and quick-witted on the surface, but in reality, your deeply ingrained wrong views and misconceptions are also very, very serious. For this particular reason, such wisdom may also be of no real use. So when we talk about truly overcoming afflictions, we actually need a kind of wisdom as well. Without wisdom, there is no way to overcome them. Just as we mentioned earlier, affliction is simply affliction, suffering is simply suffering, and when your karma manifests, it is simply your karma manifesting. Even if you can recite and listen to thousands upon thousands of treatises, no matter how fluently and effortlessly you can recite them, no matter what the content truly is, you will still suffer. You will still feel profoundly sad all the same. Therefore, this kind of wisdom also needs to be put into actual practical application. Wisdom that is combined with real practice is very important. If you do not possess it, then it truly is of absolutely no practical use or benefit. I believe that these maxims are indeed very well and clearly stated. If you can't memorize the 100 verses on wisdom, at least 10 to 20 verses from it, see if you can write them down yourself in your daily life a few times. Then try to actively apply them in your own practical daily life. We've also had 10 lessons. But after finishing all 10 lessons, you truly forget everything. Basically, each individual lesson covers about 10 verses. If everything we've talked about in a single day is never truly put to its intended use, then actually it's the same for absolutely everyone, I suppose. After all, you can easily spend a good hour watching an exciting game, or perhaps watching some captivating TV series, and in that case, people are just wasting time as usual. Maybe the 100 verses on wisdom, treatise by Bodhisattva Nagarjuna, it should be blessed, so that's fine. But it's best that whenever we study any treatise, at the very least, we can memorize a few scriptural citations from it, or be able to integrate it with our own mind stream. This is indeed very important. Next, let us carefully talk about this profound statement. Feeding milk to a snake only increases its inherent poison. Giving teachings to a truly wicked person not only fails to provide any genuine help, but actually breeds deep-seated anger. Our sweet, wholesome cow's milk, the milk itself, if you carefully pour it directly into the mouth of a venomous snake, the snake will become very happy and content about it. As everyone widely knows and understands in general biology, no matter what kind of venomous snake it is, snakes in particular especially love to drink milk. However, after a snake consumes this milk, its reaction is completely and fundamentally different from that of humans. For us humans, generally speaking, drinking milk is widely considered to be quite nourishing, or you could even say it's very beneficial. Isn't it actually true that many Dharma friends in our Larunga drink a refreshing glass of milk every single day without any interruption whatsoever? In the end, their overall health also significantly improves. As for genuine real cow's milk, its inherent nutritional value is indeed very good and beneficial. For humans, it's just like nectar. I remember in the Sakya maxim it also says, milk is like nectar for humans, nourishing and beneficial to our bodies. But for snakes, it is a kind of deadly poison that can harm them. Why do we say this? Because after a dangerous venomous snake immediately drinks the liquid substance, it quickly turns into a toxic poison gas. Of course, the snake itself doesn't die from the poison, but it does turn into poison gas. Any small sentient being that comes into contact with it will be severely harmed or potentially killed. So this dangerous and toxic property of it is especially frightening and concerning. It only increases the poison gas, that's all. It doesn't increase nectar. The same principle applies. Our especially precious teachings, both exoteric and esoteric, the profound teachings passed down so well by our esteemed masters, if I pass them on to an evil person, someone with a bad character, as we discussed yesterday, there really are some evil people who cannot be changed. If you pass the teachings on to them, not only will they fail to digest them, They won't be able to subdue their own afflictions. On the contrary, they might even develop anger because of it. For example, when we are teaching, they might feel like they're being scolded every day and might even develop wrong views toward the great Bodhisattva Nagarjuna, including being especially unable to tolerate us as their teachers. In fact, the more principles we explain, the more the other party learns a different kind of technique, carefully thinking about how to effectively counteract us in the future. In the past, weren't there some geishas and some khenpos who had learned excellent theories throughout their lives and were especially skilled in debate? But in the end, when they died, they developed wrong views and became malevolent spirits. No matter which great masters or eminent monks tried to liberate or deliver them, they would not listen or show any respect, because the basic principles they themselves actually understood quite well while they were alive. So this kind of situation should be considered extremely dangerous. Originally, the teachings themselves are very good. They are as sweet as milk, truly wonderful. But for some people, this is poison. For others, however, it is medicine, completely different effects. The teachings of our Vajrayana are excellent. But some Hinayana practitioners might even vomit blood and die from them. In the biography of Atisha, it is mentioned that when he first began teaching the doctrine of non-self, 2 bhikshus were especially delighted, and their conduct was in accordance with the Dharma. Later, when he spoke of the emptiness of non-self and discussed the Heart Sutra, they started quickly covering their ears and then just ran away. So merely having pure conduct doesn't get you very far. It doesn't have much significance. One should realize the emptiness of non-self. This is also mentioned in the commentary on the 400 verses, and I believe it is also stated in Chandrakirti's commentary that the Dharma gate of emptiness, which we call the nectar-like supreme medicine, is especially beneficial for some people. But for certain individuals, it actually gives rise to wrong views and causes them to fall into the lower realms. So it's not necessarily always a good thing, you see. Therefore, the teachings of the Tathagata are especially beneficial and highly advantageous for certain individuals, but for many others, they genuinely and truly are not suitable or appropriate at all. Didn't we specifically mention when we were discussing the profound teachings of the Lotus Sutra that after a particular section was thoroughly taught, a significant number of 5,000 people withdrew themselves and departed at that very moment? When we reached that specific part in our own teaching, all sorts of various things happened. Many people consequently withdrew because of this unfortunate circumstance. So truly for us, whether it's the teachings of the exoteric school or the esoteric school, especially the most profound teachings, there will always be some people who withdraw at that time. Some will develop wrong views. All sorts of situations can arise. Therefore, I also actually think that among the Mahayana Buddhist teachings we have transmitted in the past, some teachings in the future you may be able to teach if all the necessary conditions are fully met, and it would be much better that way. I mentioned this a couple of days ago as well, For example, the Vimalakirti Sutra and the Lotus Sutra. The Lotus Sutra is for attaining Buddhahood, and the Shurangama Sutra is for enlightenment. I originally planned to teach the Shurangama Sutra this year, but this year time has slipped by without me noticing. And now it's already October. I'm not entirely sure. It might be a little bit difficult to actually do it this particular year, but if I'm still alive and well in the future, I also vow to finish teaching it. Sutras like the Shurangama, the Diamond Sutra, and the Lotus Sutra, these teachings have especially been very widely propagated throughout the entire Chinese-speaking world. The various causes and conditions for this in all significant respects are also very much favorable. However, for some sentient beings, it seems that these texts can easily give rise to wrong views. Some even find them unacceptable. But there are also sentient beings who will accept them. I remember in one of Dzongsa Rinpoche's books, wasn't it indeed clearly written? At the time, the editor who worked with him told me Dzongsa Rinpoche once, it actually seems, was in the UK or somewhere just taking a taxi. When he was taking a ride, well, it wasn't called Didi there, it was a taxi at that time. The taxi driver was driving in a rather erratic and bumpy manner, causing the vehicle to jostle and sway quite a bit, making the ride rather uncomfortable. Later, to everyone's surprise, Dzongsa Rinpoche, while still in the back of the moving car, started urinating. This unexpected event occurred before he provided his subsequent explanation or wrote his detailed article, which aimed to clarify the situation and his actions. When this was being recorded, A disciple requested Dzongsa Rinpoche, "This might cause wrong views. You are a respected monk and master if you urinate like this in public. Others might develop wrong views. Could we remove this part?" Dzongsa Rinpoche responded sternly and very firmly, and saying this absolutely must not be removed. If this is taken out, then my book will have no value, no meaning at all. So he firmly insisted that it absolutely must not be removed from its place. Sometimes Dzongsa Rinpoche really has that kind of a certain quality, courage, that most of us probably wouldn't dare to have. There was also that memorable time at the sacred Vajra seat, wasn't there? There was a group of devoted disciples from the mainland who were especially eager to finally meet him. When they eventually saw him, just as they met, he said, "I have something to take care of over here. I'll be right back, just need to use the restroom. You all wait here." So they waited there all afternoon, waiting and waiting, and they ended up waiting there all night, but he never came. It wasn't until the sun came up the next day that he finally arrived. Many of them were a bit upset. They said, "Oh, didn't you tell us to wait? We waited all night. How could you?" And then he was just especially cheerful. He said, "You waited all night. That's wonderful, that's wonderful." So some great masters might have very skillful and highly expedient ways of acting and behaving, or some of their profound teachings are not at all easy to give rise to wrong views about, and in actual fact, everyone universally finds them much easier to accept and understand. They genuinely feel that this is truly impressive, indeed quite remarkable. He possesses certain distinctive qualities that are a bit different from many others. Of course, if this particular task isn't done well, the consequences could be significant. It could instead be used as a reason to slander, and all sorts of situations can arise. No matter what, it's always very difficult to transform evil people. Even your best teachings, they simply can't accept, let alone anything else. If their behavior and their teachings are not good, then they gain even less actual and tangible benefit from them. A person endowed with superior virtues can also influence others' minds. With skillful means, like using an iron hook, he can lead the elephant off the wrong path. Here, those who possess wisdom or compassion, these extraordinary people, they have many methods. They can profoundly influence the thoughts and minds of others, indeed. All kinds of skillful methods, which may not seem that way on the surface, but in fact they have many skillful means, or their power of compassion is especially strong, so they are able to tame the minds of many people. Just like in our own world, those individuals who are exceptionally skilled and proficient at taming powerful elephants, whether they skillfully utilize a sturdy iron hook or a flexible whip, are consistently able to effectively keep these magnificent creatures from straying off their intended path, or prevented from wandering astray into perilous or incorrect paths, and they can effectively guide it to proceed swiftly and appropriately along the correct and righteous course. Consequently, a person endowed with significant merit should be comprehensively understood to possess a wide array of diverse and effective methods and approaches. I think many of our truly great masters are also very much like this. On the surface, their actions may, at first glance, seem quite ordinary indeed. I once translated a brief biography of Khenpo Ngawang Palzang, Hwaji Rinpoche, and in this biography, recorded Khenpo Ngawang Palzang discovered that people from two places were in serious conflict. So he lay down on the road that everyone had to pass through. Many people thought that he had contracted leprosy or some other illness. Then Khenpo Ngawang Palzang said, "My illness is something that only a very few people like Nyosho Lungtok might have had. Others may not necessarily get it. My illness is called bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment." Later, many people who came into contact with him were significantly influenced in this particular way. Many individuals were originally about to clash with each other, but precisely because he steadfastly stayed there, in the end, many potentially bloody conflicts were successfully avoided. On the surface, it seemed like a very simple act, but in reality, someone who truly possesses bodhicitta, he will ultimately resolve these ongoing conflicts. Including what we have seen before, the author of the 37 Practices of a Bodhisattva, Togme Zangpo, that is to say, the great master Asanga, under his profound compassion and powerful influence, many hostile animals, such as fierce predators and their natural prey, like cats and mice, wolves and sheep, and so on, many innately hostile beings would give rise to profound compassion. Not only would they genuinely not harm each other, they would treat each other with deep-seated kindness and remarkable, unwavering compassion. So if we ourselves possess even just a little wisdom, ability, and skillful means, in fact, when some people around us unfortunately go astray, it's like when an elephant is about to fall into an abyss. We quietly and carefully use an iron hook to gently pull it back slowly. Some people may fall into wrong paths, into non-Buddhist paths, into degeneration, especially committing negative actions. At such difficult times, we should always try our very best to reach out to these individuals, comfort them and offer solace, help them carefully work through their challenging situations, or simply listen attentively to some of their heartfelt words of suffering and distress. Some people are just like I mentioned yesterday. Many people around us now seem normal on the surface, but in reality, some are in a sub-healthy state. Some individuals have depression, some others have autism, and there may be people with various mental health conditions who truly make up a very significant proportion of the entire world's population. So around us, there are many people who appear normal. They can eat, walk, talk, and do everything as usual. But in fact, we can also see that this person definitely has issues. It's just that they haven't gone to the hospital. If they did go to the hospital, there might be a whole bunch of problems, whether it's with the heart, the lungs, the liver, or what we often refer to as wind diseases, phlegm diseases, and various other kinds of illnesses may have already developed and become apparent and manifested themselves fully. These individuals, in actual fact, are also quite pitiable in this world. Their goal is to attain some happiness, to be happy both in this life and the next. But in reality, just as it is said in the words of my perfect teacher, their wishes and actions are completely at odds with each other. They desire happiness, but their actions are creating negative karma every day. They want to attain true happiness and have such a noble goal, yet they remain unaware of their contradictory behavior, but their conduct does not align with this at all. So these kinds of sentient beings do indeed exist in our world, right here with us. If they truly exist, we also know that these are inherently ignorant sentient beings. At this particular point, it really depends on how you choose to approach it. Just like in the sutra spoken by the great Sagaraniganda, it is also stated, sentient beings are covered by ignorance and only have faith in minor teachings. When they hear this Mahayana Dharma, they do not believe, so it is not taught to them. It says that sentient beings are covered by ignorance and foolishness, and they only have faith in some minor teachings, but will not believe in the greater teachings. When they hear the Mahayana teachings, they definitely won't believe. In such cases, we really try our best not to tell them. Even when transmitting the Dharma, we do not tell them. There are even some teachings that they simply cannot truly indeed accept. So we try to avoid those teachings and principles they cannot accept. As for the true correct path that they can accept, as long as they can accept it and it keeps them from falling into evil destinies, then for them, this is the definitive meaning, and it is a very supreme path. So sometimes I think for those of us who have generated the Mahayana Bodhicitta, we shouldn't always be thinking about going into retreat and avoiding contact with everyone, especially after spending a long time in the mountains. On one hand, this is a good thing. To stay away from crowds and practice alone is very good. But from the perspective of the Mahayana path of benefiting sentient beings, if you avoid everyone and feel irritated whenever you see people, if you don't dare to eat together, don't dare to generate aspiration together, and don't dare to face things together, actually, this is a profound kind of illness that resides deeply within one's own mind. If you have truly and sincerely generated the great Mahayana Bodhicitta, a compassionate aspiration for enlightenment, then even on the battlefield facing enemies, you would not be afraid. Let alone being truly present with our fellow practitioners or cherished Dharma friends who genuinely share the same profound views and noble aspirations. Eating together, walking side by side together, talking openly together, chatting pleasantly together, what is there to be afraid of? But if a person really has some kind of phobia, they indeed won't dare to interact with anyone at all, not even with their closest loved ones. It seems that as soon as they interact, they think, maybe this person is deceiving me. Or maybe they hate me, maybe they can't stand me. People's mental states nowadays are truly quite strange these days. If you were a normal person, you could interact with anyone and it wouldn't be a big deal. You haven't stolen anything, nor have you done anything shameful, nor is there truly anything that you absolutely cannot face. But there is always a persistent sense of separation deep within your heart, or a feeling of intense fear, or a profound sense of hesitation and deep worry. You might genuinely wonder, if I truly do this, what exactly will others say or think? in any given case, there are all kinds of lingering doubts and pressing questions that arise. This is really pitiful. So for those who have the opportunity, I think it's very important to interact with others. Just like all the blessings in the world, when you think of them, they are within your grasp. But those who are brave without wisdom will ultimately become captives of the strong. Many of the blessings and virtues in this world are actually gained through, but this very moment or this profound thought, you could also say, is truly significant. These worldly blessings and virtues can also, in a very short time, be gained through a single profound, insightful, and well-considered thought. If someone is brave but unfortunately lacks a clear, effective strategy or a well-defined plan, when an individual or entity consistently lacks proper planning or sufficient foresight in their endeavors, they may ultimately find themselves in a vulnerable position, and in the end they may inevitably fall into the hands of those who are stronger, more organized, and better prepared to seize control or exert influence. Some individuals are physically strong but possess a very simple-minded nature. And in the very end, many of these items may ultimately end up in the hands of the powerful and the strong. What this means is, in fact, actually a great many things in this world, for example, like fame and wealth, material possessions. If someone truly has great ability, merit, and wisdom, they can also obtain them in a very short time indeed. This includes people in the world today. Some entrepreneurs, some business founders, because they possess this profound wisdom and exceptional ability, which they have cultivated through their experiences and insights, they can easily get many things into their own hands and take control of various aspects as well. This phenomenon does indeed happen quite frequently. For example, in the recent past, what exactly was his name? The story of Su Shi's eldest son. There once was a man named Su Qin in the state of Qin. He was indeed a remarkably wise individual. He possessed a significant amount of strategic thinking and foresight. Ultimately, he rose to become the esteemed prime minister of the 6 states. If a person truly possesses significant ability, they can certainly achieve a great deal in many diverse areas as well, including worldly wealth and fame, or pretty much anything is possible. Some of us, indeed, those who are truly capable, can learn all kinds of different languages and master all sorts of different skills, including studying several treatises at the same time and taking multiple comprehensive exams on the 5 treatises. Anything is possible. Capable people can do anything. Just like a truly strong person can detain many individuals, making them all his willing captives. If you are not capable, you won't be able to do even a single thing well in this world. Among those of us who have made aspirations, sometimes I often use the term aspirant, which is also fine to say, since after all many people are aspirants. For aspirants, those individuals who are truly capable can do everything exceptionally well. They perform this task proficiently and that task well too, and others speak very highly of them. There are no problems with the way they do things. You can trust them. They are definitely very good, and their character is also excellent. Their skills are great, and their wisdom is also quite impressive. Their mindset is very normal, and even their eating habits are excellent. They can handle anything. But for some people, some things just don't work here, and nothing works there either at all. Attending this class is especially painful for them. They can't stand the actions of this Dharma teacher either. So they switch to another class, but even in that class, it still doesn't work out. It seems like this isn't right either. Switching to yet another class doesn't work either. So this is actually the manifestation of one's own karma. It's not a problem with the Khenpo or Khenmo. Of course, some Khenpos or Khenmos may indeed have certain issues, but that absolutely doesn't mean everyone has problems. If your own mind isn't pure, then the whole world will seem dirty to you. This is absolutely certain. So in our complex material world, if someone has truly accumulated a lot of spiritual merit, this is also a very meaningful way to understand it clearly and deeply. The beauty of merit and virtue originally belongs to no one, but a person of great power and ability can take her hand and walk together with her. Here, this is also a kind of personification, a sort of literary device. Merit and virtue are likened to a beautiful woman. This beautiful woman originally has no particular owner, but in the end, who does she ultimately marry? It is indeed the great and influential person with significant power and considerable influence who can truly take her hand and gracefully walk with her. The meaning is, all the considerable fame and immense wealth in this entire world, all these material riches and worldly honors, in fact, inherently and truly originally have no owner, originally belonging to no one. But whoever possesses the ability, whoever truly has merit and virtue, ultimately becomes their rightful owner. It's just like money in our modern world. Actually, when many individuals were young and diligently studying, they often encountered this concept. They really did not actually have any money at school at all, right? For example, in a class of 40 or 50 students after graduation, many of them, some have no family background or connections. However, they start from scratch on their own, building everything independently, and later, through their persistent efforts and dedication, they ultimately become very successful. They are able to obtain the blessings and beauties of fortune and hold them firmly and securely in their own hands. Some people, no matter how diligently and tirelessly they work or how much sincere effort and consistent dedication they consistently put in, still find it incredibly and profoundly difficult and simply cannot achieve their desired outcomes or reach their full potential. In the past, Devadatta was the same way. It seemed that after the world-honored one renounced the household life, he thought, since Shakyamuni Buddha has already become a monk in his former royal palace, including Yashodhara and the others, he thought he should be able to find a way. So he went into the palace and tried all sorts of tricks to deceive them. But in the end, not only did he fail to win them over, but when he came into contact with them, he himself unfortunately ended up getting severely hurt physically and consequently returned in great pain. This significant event is also clearly described in the ancient Buddhist scriptures. If an individual truly lacks both merit and virtue, then in this vast and complex world, even a humble layperson may find it exceedingly difficult to find a suitable partner to start a family with, nor will they be able to gain any significant reputation or secure a stable and respectable job. And you end up getting absolutely nothing at all. But if you truly possess merit, profound wisdom, and genuine ability, then no matter where you may go, even if you travel to a remote island nation, as long as you rely on your wisdom and abilities, there will be absolutely no problem at all whatsoever. The Sakya maxims also say that a wise person may be even more respected in a foreign land, while a fool, not to mention in another country, won't even be really respected in his own homeland. So in this world of ours, it is truly the case that there is indeed such a thing as so-called merit and wisdom. If one has merit, as the Buddhist scriptures also say, a person with true merit will undoubtedly have all their wishes fulfilled. No matter what a person of genuine merit truly wants to accomplish, they can certainly achieve it with great success. Even if they wish to utterly destroy their formidable enemies, they can absolutely do so if they deeply desire it. That is why generally people with merit do not dare to imagine harming others, otherwise their wishes would truly come true. A person with merit, while those without merit spend every day lost in delusional thoughts. In reality, it's all just daydreaming and nothing is accomplished. There's simply nothing that can be done about it. It's the same with wisdom. If one really has wisdom, they may appear to be weak or unremarkable, but they are truly capable of accomplishing many wonderful things, including absolutely whatever they deeply wish to obtain, whether it be all kinds of worldly wealth and material possessions, or even profound supramundane happiness and spiritual merit. They also have the means to achieve it. So after we thoroughly study the 100 verses on wisdom, everyone should clearly understand. On the surface, people may all seem quite the same. We all have to eat breakfast and wear clothes, and at night we all have to sleep. It's the same for everyone. One head, two hands, 2 feet, everyone is the same in that regard. But in reality, some people, because of the wisdom they cultivated in past lives, so the wisdom they possess in this life, are quite exceptional. They are respected among people, and their contributions to others are also very significant. While some people find it extremely difficult just to simply survive, and every day is filled with suffering. But this kind of suffering is also self-inflicted. No one pays attention to you either. There are people like that as well. Sometimes we truly should deeply reflect upon our own personal lives. The great masters of the past, with their profound wisdom, have meticulously analyzed the fundamental principles of life for us with great clarity and comprehensive understanding. If you want to understand, then no matter what you encounter in this life, on one hand, you should consider that this might be due to your past lives, and on the other hand, recognize your own ignorance and that many of your actions have not accorded with the Dharma which led to these results, so you won't keep blaming others or the world for your misfortunes. Nor will you remain constantly heartbroken and in utter despair, feeling lost and without hope. Even if you encounter particularly during painful events, during the lowest points of your difficult life, you still have a way to stand up again with hope. So here it is clearly said that even worldly merit and virtue always depend on the capable hands of those who possess true merit and can be generously shared with loyal companions. One can even live peacefully among ghosts and demons, always treating them with the same respect and kindness as oneself. In this way, true friends and cherished loved ones will surely increase, and everything in one's life will be complete, harmonious, and utterly unharmed. However, if a person is not very kind and compassionate to themselves, including even their worldly enemies, then it becomes a significant challenge. Some invisible, malevolent, and evil spirits lurking, or certain illnesses and afflictions and so on. If you treat all of these with particular friendliness, not only do you not give rise to anger or hatred towards them, but you also refrain from doing anything harmful to them, treating them just like your own friends and family. Or even as you would treat yourself with genuine compassion and care, then even these ancient spirits and deities will gradually come to help you willingly, and the total number of loyal friends you have in the world will also increase steadily, and in the end, everything you wish for will be perfectly accomplished. All harm will be completely and totally kept away from you always. Therefore, if we truly possess genuine, deep, heartfelt compassion and sincere, lasting empathy deeply rooted within our very hearts and souls, we should treat all living beings, all sentient beings, with the same respect and care, just as we would treat ourselves. This is truly, indeed, a very quite wonderful thing. There was a saying in the past that once upon a time a powerful group of spirits and deities were indeed preparing to harm the revered venerable Langri Tangpa, when a wise spirit king said to them, "We should not harm this practitioner, because this practitioner practices exchanging self and others every day. Not only can we not harm him, we are simply unable to do so. On the contrary, his compassion cultivated through the practice of exchanging self and others will only make his spiritual practice even stronger. It might be better for us not to harm him at all." Subsequently, all the various spirits and powerful deities, after careful deliberation, wholeheartedly agreed with his insightful view. In this significant way, we often say as well, within the profound and extensive teachings of the revered Machig Labdrön, that all these countless sentient beings have nurtured us with their very own flesh and blood. All the more compelling reason not to harbor any ill will or malice toward other sentient beings. This profound statement was probably said by the revered Bodhisattva Shantideva. The greatly compassionate Buddhas regard all sentient beings as themselves. The Buddha treats all sentient beings as if they were himself. Since Buddhas and sentient beings share the same essence, why not respect sentient beings? Buddhas and sentient beings are completely equal and of the same nature. So why do we always show such deep reverent respect to the Buddha, but not to all suffering sentient beings around us? How can that possibly make any logical sense whatsoever? This is also explained in the Bodhikariyavatara. This is most certainly and unequivocally unreasonable. So quite often in our everyday lives, we might genuinely perceive or distinctly feel that someone is actively causing us harm or distress, or that spirits and ghosts are often playing mischievous tricks on us, including having all kinds of disturbing nightmares in our dreams, and perhaps some non-human beings are actively harming me. At such challenging times, we should often recite Avalokiteshvara's sacred mantra and practice some severance methods ourselves, offering our very own flesh and blood to them. In such a way, many fragile and restless spirits and ghosts will be completely and utterly satisfied. Not only will they cease harming you and causing distress, but they will even become your benevolent, protective, and guiding guardian deities. So in our everyday lives and interactions, it is important to remember this principle. We should also often contemplate all sentient beings, especially those individuals who are fragile, truly pitiable, and genuinely humble. We should pay even more careful attention to these vulnerable beings. This is very important. This applies to non-human beings, and even more so to humans. I sincerely hope that our esteemed house managers, Khenpos and Khenmos, sometimes people unfortunately encounter this kind of problem. We regrettably tend to treat those individuals who are truly outstanding or exceptionally good-looking, those who possess significant money and high status, quite exceptionally well. They themselves also feel that they deserve respect from the Dharma teachers, thinking, I am such and such a benefactor, and so on. But some people seem to have a bad temper, poor health, and a bad personality. These people are also rather pitiable. Within our community, these individuals should be considered truly pitiable. So it is essential that we pay special attention to these particular people. Also, we all inherently have this kind of problem, don't we? And we tend to favor those who are of a much higher social status. We go out of our way to give them special privileges. But for those who are poorer or just ordinary common people, people in the world often deliberately create unnecessary obstacles and barriers for them, unfortunately. That's just exactly how selfish people in the world are. If someone possesses significant power or is a direct relative of a prominent leader, they are consistently treated with considerable respect and appropriate deference. But if someone has no background, no connections or backing, such people are immediately insulted and very often belittled. Actually, as Mahayana Buddhists, it is truly best if we treat everyone with a sense of more equality and understanding. For example, when making a phone call, you can tell the tone is completely different when talking to ordinary people. What do you mean? But when speaking to someone of higher status, oh, do you perhaps need anything at all, sir? I can certainly do this particular task or even that other thing for you, with a very special kind of dismissive attitude. In fact, this is being respectful to the Buddha but not to sentient beings. As Bodhisattva Shantideva said, since Buddhas and sentient beings share the same essence, why not respect sentient beings? Sentient beings and Buddhas are of the same essence. So why shouldn't I show respect to sentient beings? Because Buddhas and all sentient beings are of the very same essence. If the Buddha truly regards sentient beings as himself, then on what logical grounds do I insult sentient beings while simultaneously respecting the Buddha? We are all the same way. When we see our teachers or the stewards, people tend to show more respect at those times. Of course, this isn't just among Buddhists, it's even more pronounced in the secular world. We Buddhists are a little bit better in this regard. At the very least, we understand this principle, right? Of course, even if we understand this principle, if some groups don't study the teachings well, they end up exactly the same, no different from worldly people. So in these aspects, if we can make a change, it would be very good. With steadfastness and skillful means, one can relieve the suffering of sentient beings. Having compassion for all beings, a leader is like a wondrous cloud. Some individuals possess a very firm and steady character, and they also skillfully possess effective means. They often compassionately relieve the suffering of all sentient beings, and they have compassion for all sentient beings. People like this truly are, without a doubt, like truly wondrous and magnificent clouds in our world. As for these wondrous clouds, this particular concept will be thoroughly explained later as well in due course. They bring a great deal of happiness to all sentient beings. Some scriptures actually truly really say, indeed, that such a truly wise and benevolent, compassionate ruler is exactly like a beautiful, flourishing, vibrant, blooming, fertile garden paradise. A garden naturally emits a delightful and fragrant, sweet, enchanting, heavenly aroma throughout, and many busy, hard-working bees gather there peacefully together, harmoniously. In our beautiful world, there are many trees, delicious fruits, and vibrant flowers. At such opportune times, many birds also gather there. If there is clear water, various fish will also truly gather there. Every sentient being inherently and indeed always follows such a profound and fundamental pattern. For example, if there is an especially good person, a good spiritual teacher, who is steady and possesses skillful means and wholeheartedly benefits sentient beings and relieves the suffering of sentient beings, then there will always be many people surrounding him, vast crowds gathering around. Why is it that some truly great masters, those with profound wisdom and exceptional abilities, are well liked and admired by so many people, while others are not so really well liked? Actually, this is indeed somewhat related. This includes even our dedicated counselors. Some individuals during their entire lifetime did not maintain good and healthy relationships with others, but some people, no matter where they go, they always manage to foster positive connections who are always surrounded by many people. This applies to our Khenpos and Khenmos, or to anyone in the world. It is the same. Back when His Holiness was still alive, there were also big differences when we were divided into classes. Sometimes people often had a certain reputation, but later on it seemed that not many people would gather around them. At that time, I remember when we returned from Mount Wutai and were divided into classes, I wasn't in a particularly large group, nor was it particularly small, so I felt I was just an average person. Because at that time, we had to teach the treatise on valid cognition, and when we were divided into classes, there weren't that many people. Usually the most was around 30 people. The smallest classes had 4 or 5 people. Every class was like that. When we were first divided into different classes at that particular important time period, I think I had about 20 people in my small study group, as I clearly recall. Indeed, there were quite significant differences among people in various different aspects and areas. So sometimes we also need to carefully reflect deeply on ourselves. It doesn't really matter. More is fine, fewer is also fine. Having more people around can certainly be troublesome, but having fewer individuals is also perfectly okay. On one hand, we absolutely shouldn't be too attached to it, but on the other hand, no matter what we ultimately do, there are still certain differences. This is truly something everyone should indeed be aware of. Now, in our world today, we often see in various aspects, regardless of which country or group it is, if its leader is truly very good, then everyone consistently speaks highly of them, expressing great admiration. But if, however, the leader is not a very good one, then that's not necessarily the case. In fact, it is quite the opposite of what one might initially expect or assume, presenting a completely different reality. No matter which country in the world, or within any group, it's not easy to find someone who is perfect in every way, and such a person may not even exist, especially among ordinary people. But at the very least, according to what we now call public opinion polls, when public opinion polls are conducted, at first people might think things are okay. But as soon as someone takes office, their approval ratings drop immediately. And sometimes, quite dramatically, the drop is indeed quite significant. This does in fact happen. So each and every one of us should also take a moment to reflect deeply on ourselves and truly see whether we are like a cloud, not only bringing joy and happiness to everyone, but also not bringing any suffering. If so, that's very good. Because in our world, clouds, in a very real and tangible sense, they are indeed exceptionally good and beneficial. Of course, sometimes a large, ominous dark cloud may unfortunately bring down severe hail, causing potential damage and disruption. And in the end, it can also bring disaster to sentient beings. But in this metaphor, it refers to the gathering of good clouds. This is the meaning here. When dark clouds gather in the sky, crops grow abundantly on the ground. The great enduring tree of patience provides cool, refreshing shade, dispelling all the intense heat of afflictions. To elaborate further on the cloud metaphor just mentioned, if the sky is densely covered with dark, ominous clouds, that means the crops on the ground will definitely grow very strong and indeed healthy. Particularly when it rains, they will thrive. I feel like this autumn season is quite comfortable and pleasant. Unlike last year. Last year, by this exact same time, it had already started snowing heavily. It seems that sometimes the summer weather patterns aren't very even or consistent, but autumn is still pretty good. But after a little while, it should definitely start getting very much colder, right? When the sky is filled with dark clouds, the precious crops and all the beautiful flowers and delicate plants won't wither and perish and die right away. In the very same way, if we cultivate patience very, very well in our lives in this world, it's like being a cool, shady tree. So what does that truly mean? It gently dispels the deep suffering and burning afflictions of all sentient beings under its protective shade. Sentient beings actually have many intense afflictions and painful burning emotions continuously. These should constantly burn fiercely within their own troubled mind stream. However, if an individual, whether engaged in profound spiritual practice or simply navigating the complexities of daily existence, truly cultivates the virtue of patience with exceptional dedication, they invariably bring immense joy and profound happiness to all the beings around them. Indeed, whether it's in our personal motivation or in various professional classes and settings, if you carefully look at those individuals who are truly good at practicing patience and demonstrating perseverance, they should often be given some significant responsibilities. Although the work itself may be full of passion and enthusiasm, if someone has a really bad temper, that's not so good either. I sincerely hope that our Khenpos and Khenmos right now, you are like little kings with class monitors, life monitors, and labor monitors under you. In the past years, there were Communist Youth League leaders, and most schools used to have these important leadership positions. Now, none of these truly exist anymore, just kidding, but there are still all kinds of important committee leaders and directors. If these significant positions are never rotated, sometimes it really seems like these particular people always feel that, as long as this Dharma teacher is in charge, then I will always be the number one person in charge. But this may not necessarily be a good thing. Sometimes there is indeed often quite a direct comparison regarding their respective positions. In fact, you see as well. And maybe that's a bit better. Maybe next year someone else will take over. And in this way, some people not only have a good temper, but are also especially capable at work. Some people just try to curry favor with those above them, but may not necessarily do a particularly good job with those who are below them. We sincerely hope that some Dharma teachers can also be like this, and indeed many leaders are quite like this as well. Anyway, if someone is good to them, they let that person do anything. Generally, if someone isn't good to them, they'd never let that person take charge. I used to specifically do this, but actually this is quite good. Those who were especially unfriendly to me, those who had criticism of me, I would let them take important responsibilities. Here we don't really have much of that, and there aren't really any particularly dangerous positions. But later on, gradually, they might gain a lot of experience and learn from it. In some cases, this approach might actually be better. Especially for those who have cultivated patience, they treat subordinates very well. Otherwise, it appears when it comes to those below them, even just making a simple phone call or doing a small task, as soon as they have even a little bit of power, it's like with some villagers, the moment they become a village official, their whole perspective changes completely. This kind of thing is not good at all. If one truly possesses patience, then in this world that is truly dignified and admirable. Within the comprehensive and detailed extensive biography of the Buddha, there is a profound and inspiring story that recounts the life and teachings of the revered sage of patience. When the Buddha was cultivating the path, he specifically manifested as the sage of patience. At that time he was a sage or hermit, but there was another being called the evil Mara king, who deliberately tried to destroy his patience. He arranged for 1,000 people. Every single day they insulted him, and every single day they beat him. No matter if he went into the village or to a place to eat, whether he was standing or walking, at any time they would constantly hurl insults at him. They would even scold him just for breathing. In this way, they kept insulting him for 84,000 years. Because at that time, people's lifespans were extremely long. Later, no matter where he went, they would cruelly throw sharp stones at him and deliberately smear him with all sorts of impure and disgusting filth. But this truly remarkable sage of patience not only did not get angry, but instead treated them very kindly. Eventually, those who insulted him were moved by his actions. In the end, they all took refuge. They all gave rise to the unsurpassed bodhicitta. This is something we can't even imagine, let alone 84,000 years, even if someone truly talked about us like that for just 2 or 3 days. Indeed, we would definitely not take it lying down and would fight back. If you really act like this, even though I am a monastic, I must say, even though I have generated the bodhicitta of the Mahayana, I still can't manage to be patient right now. I might indeed retaliate, I might certainly fight back. I genuinely believe that in this complex world, the greatest and most profound merit actually comes from possessing a truly good temper. It's certainly not an easy feat. People often start sighing deeply or getting quite agitated over even the smallest, most insignificant things. People who are particularly prone to sudden, intense anger often sigh heavily and deeply first. They usually start like this, then begin to curse loudly or even get violently physical with others. This is probably the biggest serious character flaw imaginable, especially for those who have already become dedicated spiritual monastics who have generated the Mahayana bodhicitta and are among Vajra brothers and sisters. It's really not good for such conflicts to happen frequently. So sometimes we really should. I hope that our Dharma teachers, as well as the heads of each department, can observe how the little kings under them are doing their jobs. This really needs to be checked regularly and often. Of course, some people might be doing very well, but their subordinates might really be underperforming. In such complex cases, these particular difficult situations also need to be properly understood and carefully analyzed. This is very important indeed. Now, moving on to the next crucial point. For those who practice virtuous conduct and follow the laws of humanity, heaven is not far away. If you ascend the ladder to the human and heavenly realms, liberation is close at hand. If we uphold the virtuous rules of the human world, such as the 10 virtuous actions, for example, then the true heaven of the future, a state of profound peace and ultimate happiness, will not be far away. Similarly, the mythical realm of Shambhala, often envisioned as a pure land, is not far away either. That is to say, when we refer to heaven, we specifically mean the lasting happiness experienced within both the human and heavenly realms, which is not far away. If we carefully ascend the spiritual ladder to the human and heavenly realms, that is to say, specifically the 10 virtuous actions of the human world, and in the heavenly realms, things like the 4 dhyanas and the 4 formless absorptions. If you cultivate these, then liberation will also come quickly. Because to attain liberation, we must first rely on the human realm. If we truly do well in the human realm, then attaining Buddhahood will not be far away either. In the past, the esteemed Master Taishu often diligently promoted humanistic Buddhism. He also thoughtfully said, "We look up only to the Buddha and perfect ourselves in character. To become truly human is to indeed become a Buddha. This is the very ultimate true reality. If you wish to attain Buddhahood, the main thing is to rely on this." The fulfillment of faith in the Buddha's accomplishment is actually realized in how we conduct ourselves as human beings. If you succeed in being a good person, then attaining Buddhahood will also be successful. So I think in the treatise on the 2 codes of conduct, so many principles are discussed as well. Therefore, attaining Buddhahood is very important. And attaining the holy fruit is also very important. But the key is, if you haven't done well as a person, then perhaps attaining true Buddhahood is truly out of reach for many, and you may not necessarily be able to fully achieve it. Therefore, it is essential that we should first become good and virtuous people, and then diligently practice our spiritual path. Become a good practitioner of the Shravakayana, the path of the hearers, a practitioner of the Mahayana, the great vehicle, and progress a Vajrayana, tantric practitioner. Step by step your mind is capable, and in practice you start with the 4 common preliminary practices, then proceed to the 4 uncommon preliminaries, completing 500,000 accumulations, and then advance to the study and practice of Vajrayana. This sequence will never go wrong. This is a gradual, step-by-step process. It should be considered a truly effective and successful method. Now, regarding the 99 verses, they string together many meanings like a garland within the great treatises of aphorisms, gathering the essential points. This is the 100 verses of wisdom. Great Bodhisattva Nagarjuna has skillfully strung together many profound spiritual meanings, like a beautiful garland of fresh flowers, or like our traditional string of prayer beads, a sacred mala. These are carefully drawn from the great ancient treatises of aphorisms from all over the world, including those composed by Bodhisattva Nagarjuna himself, as well as others. This includes the codes of conduct taught by the Buddha and those established by other great spiritual masters. From among these profound aphorisms and extensive great treatises, we have carefully extracted and distilled the most essential parts. All of these have been woven together into the string of the 100 verses of wisdom. There might be some slight variations in this particular translation work, but that's perfectly fine. The essential core meaning remains exactly the same, in any case from all kinds of different classical aphorisms. The profound words of the 100 verses on wisdom have been carefully strung together, thoughtfully passed down as a collection of 100 verses, much like precious beads on a sacred mala. This spiritual treasure is lovingly offered to those individuals with the appropriate karmic connection, intended to be worn as our cherished necklace, our beautiful ornament. Because the 100 verses on wisdom, from among many aphorisms, this collection has been carefully gathered into a beautiful garland, a delicate string of precious beads, and offered to us. We too also indeed wear the sacred mela of the 100 verses on wisdom collection with its 100 beads. We can certainly treat it as a precious, lifelong spiritual ornament for ourselves. Perhaps we will eventually gain much deeper meaning from it, who does not rely heavily on others, but seeks to survive through inner wisdom and understanding. If they constantly reflect on this, will act for the benefit of both self and others. If any one of us is indeed not very willing to rely on others for daily instruction, since from our earliest childhood for at least a good 10 or even a full 20 years, or even more, we have depended on others to learn knowledge. But now we do not need others and can rely on our own wisdom to survive, then it is best for you to take the 100 verses on wisdom. In fact, many of us nowadays say, I want to go for training. I want to start attending the University for the Elderly. There used to be something called the University for the Elderly in France. It was actually similar to a lay Buddhist center. They simply just called it the University for the Elderly. Indeed, many foreign countries, in fact, do have such educational institutions. Actually, our domestic lay Buddhist centers are quite similar. It's just a different name, that's all. But if you go to the University for the Elderly to study, it's also quite tiring. The tuition fees for these courses are also quite high. In this particular case, you truly don't need anyone else. Just simply take a good book and diligently study it well by yourself, and then start to carefully assess your own mind stream and observe yourself thoroughly. It's very much like looking into a clear mirror. Actually, in this way, if you often don't want to rely on others, having someone instruct or criticize you every day, and you are self-sufficient. In fact, some of us who are wise read books every day on our own, and use the profound principles in these valuable books to truly enrich ourselves. By often reflecting deeply on the meaning presented here, you can effectively help others and also achieve your own significant benefit. There are no problems in benefiting both yourself and others. So the 100 verses on wisdom, I believe that this time it might prove to be very helpful and beneficial to many people. I sincerely hope that everyone can effectively make good use of its valuable insights, because I personally feel that it is exceptionally good and remarkably beneficial. When I translate, I usually read it myself first, read it once or twice on my own, and if I think it's really, truly good to me, then I translate it. It should be just like what was said that day, the 100 verses on wisdom. Previously did not exist at all in our Chinese language texts. The following is what the translators at the time said, or perhaps it was indeed written by the very person who composed it in Sanskrit, though it's not entirely clear. In any case, it first and foremost praises the great Bodhisattva Nagarjuna, who had already attained the first Bodhisattva ground, the extremely joyful ground, and realized the meaning of the universal conduct of Samantabhadra within the Dharma realm. This should be the state of a first ground bodhisattva. He was prophesied to be the source of the light of Tathagata's wisdom, which refers to when Bodhisattva Nagarjuna will attain Buddhahood. This is his Buddha name. He is honored as the second Buddha, the Holy One, Acharya Nagarjuna Bodhisattva. The 100 verses on wisdom that he composed has now indeed been fully and truly and entirely completed. The meaning of the treatise being completed is that the esteemed Indian Khenpo Sodargye and the truly great translator, as we previously mentioned, Gawa Baitse, meticulously translated it. They translated it from Sanskrit into Tibetan and then proofread and finalized it. The 100 verses on wisdom. When I translated it from Tibetan into Chinese, I translated the entire text and provided a simple explanation for it then to make it easier for scholars' reference understand. Actually, in this teaching, at the time I thought I might not be able to finish it. If I couldn't, I'd provide a literal explanation. Otherwise, reciting verses, some might not understand the meaning. That was the current situation at the time. Back then, on July 28th, the year 2011, I brought this particular and rather interesting book with me to the esteemed Chinese University of Hong Kong. As for my presence at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, I was, at that specific point in time, actively attending one of their highly informative and engaging academic seminars there. It seems that on that day, I gave a talk on pure mind, pure land. It was inside the Chinese University. And then, either the next day or sometime after, I gave another talk on working with suffering. That one was at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. When I came back, it was around August when World Youth Day started. I think of the Chinese University of Hong Kong. They had a really nice lecture hall with tiered seating, and I specifically went to measure it. Later, the lecture hall at Larong Hotel was modeled after the tiered lecture hall at the Chinese University. They actually have several tiered lecture halls there, and we used those as the reference for measurements. Then in 2011, for the first World Youth Day, we originally wanted to hold it on a larger scale, but it wasn't approved, so there were only about 200 people. Then in early 2012, the second annual World Youth Day event officially started at the prestigious Hong Kong Institute of Education campus with great enthusiasm. That year in Hong Kong, I went again in November. At that time, I visited the Hong Kong Institute of Education, the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, and the University of Hong Kong, 3 universities in total. I distinctly remember it was in November when I actually went. However, these talks weren't quite as brilliant or truly insightful as those given by His Holiness, but at the very least at that time, they served as a way to communicate with the teachers and students at these schools. Now we also have some written historical records, I suppose. Anyway, it was relatively quite convenient back then. At the beginning of the year, I also went to Hong Kong. There was also an event in the summer which counted as the first World Youth Day. Because before that, I think it was in 2010, some of the current Khenpos and Khenmos here with us had not yet become monastics. We successfully organized and held the very first groundbreaking Science and Buddhism Forum together. This important event took place in 2010 at Larung Dhammapala. Following this, the World Youth Day was held for a total of 7 consecutive annual sessions worldwide. When it came to the 8th session, we very patiently kept waiting. Let's discuss this particular matter at a later point in time. That was the situation at the time. So this time, this little annotation is just also included. But I don't know, if you make lecture notes in the future, the brief annotation is first provided as a clear and direct literal explanation of the content. Just like the annotations we did for the 37 practices of a bodhisattva before, we initially make a thorough literal annotation. Subsequently, you can also make extensive lecture notes if you wish. This truly momentous 100 treatise is now entirely complete.
Sonandai Tamsa Rogaya Tonani Jana Pasi Jirgana Jirano Chupai Chupun Sonen Droa Droa Banzara
Padma Sodargye Bandharangara Padma Sodargye Bandharangara Padma Sodargye